All right, man, let's get into it, man. So we had the Detroit mayor debate um June 16th. I listened to most of it. Um there were some interesting things being said in this debate. Um I mean, with no further ado, let's get into it. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and the subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications. Christians get notifications. We go live or drop video. Check out the current Detroit news playlist, and let's let them cook.
Any candidate who polled at 10%, including I told them only to applaud once, and that explains the lengthy applause. Well done. I've asked the audience tonight to politely wait until the end of the debate for any more applause. First, though, before we get going, I want to make clear these four candidates were chosen to participate tonight on recent polling done by the Glenn Garif Group. Polling you can take a much closer look at our website, clickondetroit.com. Any candidate who polled at 10%, including the margin of error of 4 points or higher, was invited to participate in this debate. And these are the four candidates only who met that threshold. So we say welcome and thank you for being here. The rules for tonight's debate, pretty simple. Everyone gets an opening and a closing statement. And in between, I'll ask a question that each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. If a rebuttal is required because of something that was said by another candidate, they will have 30 seconds to respond to that after everyone has answered the original question. Candidates have agreed that if they do not wrap up their statement in a timely manner, they could have their microphone muted. Our questions, well, they're your questions. They're based on the issues Detroiters determined to be the most important in this election, per that polling I was talking about earlier. We also are going to hear a question tonight from our partners at the AARP, a volunteer who's with us tonight, and a member of the Michigan.
I'm not running for mayor in years.
Are you guys ready? Yes. Well, let's go. We drew the order of our 90-second opening statements right before the show, and the order will go like this: Kinloch, Jenkins, Sheffield, and Craig. Mr. Kinloch, you're up first.
I'm Solomon Kinloch, Jr., and I'm running as a candidate for mayor of the city of Detroit. For the last 27 years, I've served as senior pastor of Triumph Church. In those 27 years that I've served as pastor, I have not sought to use that pulpit as a pedestal in order to promote myself as an individual, but I've sought to use that platform and that pulpit to elevate others and lift an entire community of people. I am not running for mayor tonight simply for myself. I'm running for mayor for you. I'm running for mayor because I spent my life in direct action for neighborhoods and not just downtown. As mayor, I'll be a mayor for all people. I'll make sure that we build 10,000 affordable units and create 100,000 jobs. We'll get rid of the food desert. I'll make sure that we have good schools with a chief educational officer. And I'll make sure that we build a Detroit that works for everybody.
Ms. Jenkins?
All right, man. Now, watching this thing, one thing you're going to notice is this guy right here has the best suit. Like, these dudes literally didn't come with tailor suits. And the brother from Triumph Church, I don't know if he was nervous. He didn't really know how to work the room. He was very, very uncomfortable up there. I mean, he was talking like he got his freedom papers on Juneteenth a couple days ago. I mean, for him to be a pastor, he don't know how to work the room. You know what I'm saying? And he has, the two dudes up there, James Craig used to be the police, like I mean, honestly, the suit was off the rack. It looked like he was talking like he got his freedoms papers last Juneteenth, and I mean like 3 days after this. He just didn't really have stage presence at all. He didn't know how to work the room. And that's crazy for a pastor not know how to do that. And also, he would make blanket statements. But I really want to get to this, but And in my opinion, after this debate, it came down to two people.
Sure that we have good schools with a chief educational officer. And I'll make sure that we build a Detroit that works for everybody.
Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. I am Santil Jenkins. Our next mayor will face a difficult financial reality, including finding replacement revenue for nearly $1 billion that this city has received since 2020 in COVID funding. They'll have to do that on day one while leading this city and continuing the progress that we've seen for the last decade. That's why I'm running for mayor, because we need a mayor with experience in government and outside of government, from Focus Hope to Mariners Inn to City Council to THAW. I have served Detroiters for over 30 years, including 10 years of legislative experience and over 10 years as a CEO. Tonight, you will hear my plan that puts people first. That's what we need in our next mayor, someone who puts people first because they have the head and the heart for our city. The head is the unique experience I bring to the table, and the heart is my compassion for you, for all Detroiters. At the end of this debate, you will see why I am the right candidate to be mayor in the city of Detroit at this time in our history. Thank you.
Ms. Sheffield?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It has been an absolute honor to serve Detroit. I'm ready to take our city to the next level and ensure that we're building a Detroit that works for everyone. Under my leadership, we have restored civility, decorum, and a spirit of collaboration that has allowed us to be a partner in the growth of our city. We have record investments in economic development, $1 billion in creating affordable housing, 50-year record low crime. We've invested in over 150 city parks. We've prevented displacement of our families through right to counsel, and we've invested over $40 million in home repair grants for our seniors and disabled. But we know, Detroit, that there is still much more work to be done. And with my experience, my record of getting things done, I am ready day one to ensure that we're building on the foundation that has been laid. My administration will focus on affordable housing and home ownership, providing better outcomes for education for our students, strengthening public safety, investing in our neighborhoods, and of course, building our middle class with good, high-wage and livable wage jobs, ensuring that Detroiters are prepared and trained to get those jobs. Detroit, we can get it done, so let's get to work.
Mr. Craig?
Thank you, Detroit. I am so excited to be here this evening. 44 years as a public servant. 12 years leading complex organization. I just have to say that the best 8 years was my last 8 years leading the Detroit Police Department. And also 8 additional years leading as a command officer in one of Los Angeles' toughest communities. I'm a proven leader. I have the stability. This is not a time for a candidate or a mayor for on-the-job training. Day one, when I start, I will lead this great city like I did as your chief. We have to get it right, Detroit. I lead through transparency, I'm ethical, and I'm results-oriented. We must get it right. We have this one chance. I'm the leader. I'm your mayor that can get it right. Thank you.
All right, so you heard kind of the open statements that they made. Just look at the suit, just too big. I mean, he got an uphill battle. He gonna make a comment that really pushed me to do this video. He has a really uphill battle being a former police chief. Nobody really care about the numbers that he gonna spit out. People just gonna know you the police, and how the urban community, the black community feel about the police. You know what I'm saying? Even though when something go wrong, then they want to call the police. But he already got an uphill battle being a police. I'm surprised he got the 10% or whatever it was to be up there.
All right, let's get to our first question. And Ms. Jenkins, you'll have the first answer, and then we'll go right on down the line. It's about public safety. With crime, drugs, and guns cited as the top concern by primary voters in a recent WDIV Detroit News poll, what specific strategies will you implement in your first year to reduce violent crime in neighborhoods, not just downtown? Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you. This question is not more important to anybody on this stage than me because I lost my 14-year-old brother to gun violence. We have to make prevention a part of our crime reduction strategy and not just over-police our communities into safety. We have to make sure that the good men and women of our police department have the resources that they need for real community policing throughout the city of Detroit, and we have to have safe spaces and places for our young people between the most dangerous hours of the day, and that is 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. In addition, we have to have mental health resources so that we are not criminalizing mental health, ensuring that our officers, our neighborhoods have all of the resources that they need to increase safety throughout the city of Detroit.
So what are those resources? You know what I'm saying? It's a blanket statement. No, she has media training. First thing she did was sympathize with people, said, well, I lost my 14-year-old and we sorry to hear that. But that's what you do. You know, when you selling something, you sympathize, or you might come with a problem, you sympathize with them with a story that is as close as what you know, trying to sell them. But what are those resources? You know what I'm saying? The youth are the problem. The youth make the spaces hot. You know what I'm saying? And I think some of the resources that need to be put, you know, out there for police officers ain't guns, it ain't extra cars, it ain't extra officer cujos or K9 units. It's the ability to be able to do, I feel like, things in the community to meet the people that you police. And I think if you able to empathize with the people by working in the community, I feel like the police should have to put so many in. I feel lawyers and judges and stuff, and that might be a step above her pay grade, even as the mayor, should, you know, have to do should have to do community service hours in the community that they're going to work in and get to know these people. You know, they throw years at these young kids and don't even know they don't have a chance. They was a crack baby. They, you know, they raised themselves. Their sisters raised them, or they, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think if police officers, judges, district attorneys got an opportunity to see how these people was living, you know what I'm saying? I think it'll greater improve the police force. I think they're the resources they need. They need to be in the community before they work in the community and learn the people in their community. And I guarantee you they would have a better understanding.
Thank you.
Mr. Craig?
And thank you for that question. Certainly leading so many police departments in my time, I have the answer. First and foremost, community policing, building trust-based relationships in our community. When I got here in 2013, the community didn't trust the police department. When I got here in 2013, we had a response time of over an hour. We had a clearance rate to homicides of 11%. We held people accountable. And during that holding people accountable, we changed the organization. As your mayor, I will continue to build on the successes that we realized during my tenure. The work still needs to be done, but we still have to focus on our neighborhood police officers, Green Light Detroit, a couple of the initiatives that we brought to bear that's shown success. We saw a steady decline in violent crime, particularly in the area of carjacking, from 800 one year to just over 200 in my last full year. Thank you.
Ms. Sheffield?
Thank you. So I believe any thriving community, the foundation is public safety. And
Mario, before we get to him, you know, he said he held people accountable. Let me say this, you know, as a police officer, former police, and people ain't trying to hear that from you, dog. You don't care nothing. They just look at you as the police, and that's unfortunate. And these people need to be held accountable. And, you know, they don't need to give people slaps on the wrist. Some people don't deserve an immediate second chance. So I just wanted to say that real quick. But, man, it's going to be an uphill battle for Mr. Craig.
without a doubt, Detroit has become more safe. But if people don't feel safe, we have a lot more work to do. And so my goal would be to build on the success that has taken place thus far, particularly within community violence intervention, where we have organizations that go out into our neighborhoods. And within those zip codes, we've seen a 50% reduction in crime in those areas. I do believe we do need more boots on the ground, old school community policing like we used to have, in a way that does not over-police but builds trust. We also do have to focus more on prevention. We cannot police our way out of gun. violence or public safety. We have to address and invest in more youth programming, recreation, and activities that give our young people productive things to do. I also believe that we have to continue to fund the social issues that breed crime in our community, which is mental health, education, and housing, to ensure that we're actually investing in the root cause. Gun Violence Prevention Office is something that I have always fought for and would love to see formed within the first 100 days of my term, which treats it as a public health crisis.
Mr. Kinlock?
Every resident.
Now, before we get to him, everybody got the same answer. Oh, we need some more public safety. You need to give safe spaces for the youth. And I like what other girl said about mental health too. I think that was a great point. They shut down a lot of the mental health, facilities, and they shut down a lot in the state of Michigan. They took the funding and put it elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I like that she said that. Not Mary Sheffield, but the other lady, I forget her name. But public said we need to do stuff for the youth. The youth is the problem. They create the bad spaces. They make the safe spaces the bad spaces. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the honest truth right now. So, I mean, them saying that, I just think, honestly, I like what James Craig said, hold them accountable. Lock their ass and their parents up, dude. That's the issue right now.
And the city of Detroit deserves at least two things: safety and justice. And the quickest way we get to both is by, first of all, understanding that people need jobs and opportunity. If you're going to decrease crime, we got to give people opportunity. And we got to make sure that we have the resources appropriated so that we're not allocating those resources to costly settlements. When we just look, because sometimes you can be so close to the forest you can't see the trees. When we just look at the fact that in the last 3 years, City Council approved more than $63 million in DPD settlements. At some point, we got to ask ourselves, how many more officers could we put on the street? How much more equipment? How many more mental professionals could we equip our department with? And how many more officers would have loved to have that pay in their salaries?
All right, man. He said a lot, even though I just don't think he just looked the most comfortable up there. He says people need opportunity, but I would say this: people don't want to work. People don't want to work. The whole thing with this generation, is to do everything they can do not to work. But he's right. If you got 63 million in settlements, then you need police reform. Then it goes back to what I said in the beginning. You need to have your police, do community service hours in the community to get to know the people. That way the settlement stops. When you know people and you get out there, you're able to, communicate with them, learn where they come from, you get it. But a lot of times you got these officers who come from these hillbilly cities or these other cities, and they don't know how to, they don't know nothing. You don't know nothing you don't know nothing about how they living. But he had a good point there. He had a lot of good points there.
Our next question comes from our media partner, the Michigan Chronicle. I'd like to invite the executive editor up to the stage, Jeremy Allen. Mr. Craig, you'll get the first answer on this.
Thank you so much, and greetings to the candidates. On behalf of our publisher, Mr. Hiram E. Jackson, we want to thank you for involving the Michigan Chronicle in such an important debate. For the candidates, as Detroit continues to grow and revitalize, the need for affordable housing remains critical. With a strained city budget and rising developmental costs, how do you propose Detroit can increase its affordable housing stock without relying heavily on state or federal funds? And what new or underutilized revenue streams can the city tap into to subsidize the affordable housing?
Mr. Craig.
As we know, we have an affordable housing crisis here in the city of Detroit. 44,000 is what we need. Currently in the pipeline, we have 1,900, not even making a dent. Part of what I want to do is stimulate and grow the middle class. That means home ownership. But it goes even beyond that. I have a program, CityStat, like ComStat, what I brought to the Detroit Police Department. And in that program, I'm going to track everything that can be tracked, including affordable housing. But we have to give incentives to the developers. We have to educate our community on financial literacy. And so I'm poised to grow the middle class, but also understanding the importance of driving small business. I understand what it's like to work with small business. I alluded to in my first statement, Green Light Detroit.
Ms. Sheffield?
Yeah, so housing is extremely important.
And he was just talking too slow. He was just talking too slow. What's so funny about it, man? I think somebody may touch on it. They let a lot of these foreign people come in who ain't never been to Michigan or don't live here, buy the land bank houses up, and they let them buy the city of Detroiters, pay their property, high ass property taxes, and take their house from them. You know what I'm saying? And affordable housing. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Affordable housing, subsidized housing make people lazy. They never want to get off their ass and get and go back into the community and get a real house. They pass down Section 8 vouchers like they passing down, heirlooms and stuff. That's my issue with it. I'm tired of it. Get out there. If y'all gotta, get 4 or 5 people in the house to buy a house and do it like the Arabs do and do it that way. I had enough of affordable housing bullshit. Because these people never want to let it go. That's why they ain't never enough, because they sit on it for so long and they get lazy. And it's incentivized you not to go out there and get a job and do better. I'm tired of it. I'm just gonna keep it real.
To this city, and it's something that I'm very proud that we have invested to date $1 billion in the creation and preservation of affordable housing. That is not an easy feat. But what I would say is that how do we keep it going is, one, we have to address the fact that the cost of construction and doing affordable housing in Detroit is extremely high. So oftentimes we do need to provide abatements to allow for the numbers to match out. We also have to address the real issue, which is we have extremely high property taxes in Detroit, which is a barrier to both businesses and residents. And so structural property tax reform is at the forefront of what I will bring as mayor. We also have to lean onto our community-based, faith-based institutions who are anchors in our communities who would love to redevelop and provide housing within our communities. And we need to provide them with the support and tools that they need to be able to revitalize our communities through housing. We also have something called the Detroit Housing for the Future Fund, which partners with some of our banks and other philanthropic support that provides the gap financing that oftentimes developers need.
Mr. Kinlock?
And here is why I got into this race. Because whenever you got to stand over a family and 2 young children end up dead because they froze together in the frigid cold, I don't care how much good we've done, it ain't enough. When we start talking about we built $1 billion in housing, when the median income in this city is less than $40,000 a year, you cannot say you're building affordable housing when the average person in this city is not making $800 a week. We have to do something more in order to make sure that people have a pathway to the greatest opportunity to build wealth. Down payment assistance, we can use the tools that are at our discretion, like tax abatement and incentives, in order to give people credit that live in a home to maintain a home and to repair the home. But also we got to make sure that we leverage the tool like the land bank in order to give them access the same way.
Ms. Jenkins?
Now he's right about a few of those things. My thing is this: you say, "Oh, people they don't make enough money," and this, that, and the third. Go make more money. Go get 2 or 3 jobs. Unfortunately, that's just what it got to be. Detroit is one of the more affordable cities in America, from what I see. I said again, Detroit is one of the more affordable cities to live in America. As far as rent and all that type of stuff, and how you can get a house for $2,500, $1, and fix it up and stuff of that nature. These people in Detroit be having money. They make money under the table. My thing is affordable housing allow people to be continue to make bad decisions, continue to have bad kids, make a bunch of kids, continue to go out here and use all these government, vouchers and all this stuff, but they never get off of it and make them lazy, bro. It's the equivalent of women going to get body work. Instead of getting in the gym, they get lazy. They get more lazy. That's why I don't like it. I ain't even trying to hear that.
I have to agree with my colleague on this. When you brag about all you've done, and a mother had to bury her babies because she could not find affordable housing. And
I'm not trying to hear that bull jive. Oh, she couldn't find I know she's not talking about the woman in the casino that sent her kids to the upper room. I hope she's not talking about old girl. We tired of hearing the same story. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the mother had no, dude. Pick better. That is not the community's fault. We need to stop blaming the community for these women laying with these buster ass ninjas or not standing under these dudes' leadership and going out there. I can do it on my own. I don't need no man. No, I'm not trying. I don't feel bad. They know the decisions that they make, and they always feel like, oh, the government can bail me out. And I used to work at DHS office when I was in college, bro. I seen women come in there and, you know, they give them build a bridge card with cash and EBT and WIC, and they came in 5 minutes before it closed. We done enough. We taxpayers have done enough to support these type of people. That's why I agree with Trump. Pull this funding bullshit out of Section 8. No, well, pull it. Pull it and reform it. Get them 1 or 2, 3 years to get it together. If they don't get it together, they on the street. We've done enough. These people know how to get out there, get a job. They know how to, and this goes back to the original point. They don't want to work. They don't want to be with a man that's going to lead them and they build together and be under their family structure, and they don't want to work. They don't want to work. Nobody trying to hear that, man. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of it already.
In spite of reaching out to the city time and time again, especially as someone who chairs a housing and homelessness task force, you have failed our residents.
You have not failed your residents unless they have mental issues or physical decapitation. They're lazy. They're lazy. It's not our responsibility as taxpayers to right the wrongs of these people having babies out of wedlock that they can't afford to take care of. That's not our responsibility. That's enough. We've done enough. You keep putting band-aids on this problem, keep bailing these women out, and it never changes. Get a job. Get a man that's worth something. Stop procreating with busters. They always getting the slap on the wrist to women. I'm tired of it.
I would utilize housing bonds to reduce the cost of building affordable housing so that we can offer it at better rates. I would create a down payment assistance program and make sure that we're building housing for Detroiters at every income level and every stage of their life. As we look at our AARP participants here, our seniors need affordable, decent, quality housing as well. And I would work every day to ensure that Detroiters had access to that.
And that's all cool and fine and all that type of stuff, man. But they got plenty of programs. The Michelin, they got plenty of Detroit programs. The problem is nobody talks about them. Nobody knows about all these programs. People still don't even know Focus Hope exists. They got plenty of programs that, you know, no credit check, pay, but people don't know about it. You talking about creating things that's already there, but people don't know. And then these people get these houses and they pass these houses down to their kids and they don't pay the property tax, the highest property taxes. They ain't got to pay rent. They don't pay the property taxes. They don't fix the house up and they lose the house. They trying to act like this is a Detroit problem. No, it's just a fucking, piss poor individual problem.
All right, our next question. Let's stay in the neighborhoods. I didn't hear a direct attack in there, did I? I'm gonna move on to the next question. We can address it in the next question, which is about neighborhood investment. Despite downtown revitalization, many people in the neighborhoods drive around and they still see corridors of boarded up storefronts. What is your plan? And please offer some specific examples to attract and sustain development in the neighborhoods. You do have the first answer here, Michelle.
Thank you. And so for me, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about marketing our neighborhoods for development within inner city communities. I think it's important that we continue to offer tools similar to what we have in the DDA, which allows us to capture taxes within our communities and neighborhoods to provide redevelopment into our neighborhoods. We should start with our commercial corridors, with our community anchors, who are legacy institutions in our communities that we can grow around and use them as anchors to redevelop. What's most important when it comes to neighborhood development is that two things. One, we utilize neighborhood input and understand what community wants in those neighborhoods, but also that we are making it easier for grocery stores, coffee shops, and restaurants to open up shop in Detroit by refining some of the internal processes that makes it difficult to do business in Detroit. And so my plan would be to reform a lot of the internal red tape to prevent businesses from setting up shop, but also partnering with neighborhoods and Detroit-based businesses to ensure that we're revitalizing our corridors in our inner city communities.
Mr. Kinlock?
We got to be intentional about how we address it. And one of the ways we do that is not just casting a vision, but mapping out a plan and having metrics to measure that plan. One of the first things I would do in my first 100 days is to convene, because one of the things that you're able to do as the mayor is not just cast vision, communicate that vision, but also convene the stakeholders. I believe that we got some of the greatest partners in philanthropic and in corporate industry right here in the city. We need to convene that table in order for us to come up with a we plan and not a me plan. I believe that we can accomplish that by coming up with an economical model in order to construct homes that people in the city of Detroit can afford themselves.
Ms. Jenkins.
Yes, I would have a strategic master plan in each of the 7 districts throughout the city of Detroit that would be built with the residents in the city of Detroit. And that master plan would include land use, it would include public safety, transit, education, and there would be commercial corridors in each of the 7 districts. And once we create this plan for each of the 7 districts that the residents have said that they want, we will offer incentives. If you live in the city of Detroit and you can bring a coffee shop, a movie theater, or a bakery, whatever the residents have decided, if you live in the city, you get more incentives. And if you live in that district, you get the highest number of incentives. That way, we're not only creating commercial corridors throughout our city, but we're also building generational wealth for the people who live here.
Mr. Craig?
And the problem is people gon' rob the store like they did 313 when they was on West Jefferson. The thing is, if people gonna tip and spend money or complain about the prices of the store, or the community don't get behind them and spend money and break bread with them, that's the $1 million question. Are these businesses gonna come in and be able to survive? So, but it sounds good.
Yes, one of the things I've talked extensively about, we need to really reform Land Bank Detroit. It doesn't work very well. And I know the mayor doesn't totally control it, but certainly can fund it and change and make decisions. Look, there's a lot of those land bank homes that could be used for first-time home buyers in Detroit. I'm proposing a tiered program so that first Detroiters, not foreign investors coming in Detroit, who buy the land and the homes and leave them in a dilapidated state. There has to be accountability across the board. But not just that, we need to really streamline how we do business here in the city of Detroit. Comes to mind, there's a great little place on the east side of Detroit, Sister Pie. Many of you may know it. The place had lines wrapped around it. It's out of business now. So what kind of support can we give to a thriving business? I recognize that Ford and certainly Wayne State Tech Center, they do a lot of support for up and coming businesses. We have got to do that because sustainability is important.
Thank you. We're not quite at the...
He's right about that. Land banks need a reform. They really do. And like I said, how do you sustain these businesses? Restaurant businesses are hard to make money in, so people got to consistently come and support it. You can't open up shit in the city if you ain't gonna support it. But let's go.
The halfway point, but we're going to take a quick time out, catch our breath, and be...
The team of people, you can't be a...
Welcome back to the Gretchen C. Valet Jazz Center on the campus of Wayne State University for tonight's Detroit mayoral debate. Let's get right back into the questions with our candidates. And this next set of questions are for each of you individually. I'm going to start with candidate Kinlock. You have said you would still run your church and preach on Sundays if you're elected mayor. How can you do both effectively when most agree that being mayor is a 24/7 job?
Well, let me be clear. I would be a full-time mayor 2.0. But I understand leadership because you can be an executive and not be a leader. but you can't be a leader and not be an executive. One of the things that I understand is how to build teams. A church that's 105 years old cannot be ran and operated by one person alone. It takes a team of people. Just like I cannot pastor alone, I would not be the mayor alone. You have a deputy mayor, you have a chief of staff, you have chief operating officer, you have department heads. I will be a full-time mayor, but I will be a mayor that will go to church on Sunday, and when he goes to church on Sunday, he will preach. What's wrong with a mayor that has a Christian conscience?
Ms. Jenkins, this question is for you. The last time you were elected to city council, you resigned just a year into your term. Why should voters trust you're going to be totally committed this time if you're elected mayor?
Because I've been totally committed to Detroit my entire life. I was at the city council table during the bankruptcy. My last day at council, we announced that we were exiting the bankruptcy, and then I went to do something very similar to what our current mayor did when he left the prosecutor's office early. I went to be a CEO at an organization that was helping vulnerable families, very much like the one I grew up in. I know what it feels like to live in a house with no heat and no water. And I've been able to help our most vulnerable citizens across the city over the last 10 years. We provided more than $100 million in assistance to the most vulnerable families, and I'm very proud of that fact. In addition, I am even more prepared today for this moment in our city's history.
My thing is this: you keep putting band-aids, you keep throwing 100 million to people, and what is it? What has it done? It's not like, okay, we threw 100 million people and they used this and became productive citizens, was able to support themselves. You keep throwing patches on these people with affordable housings, with giving them money for bailout money, and they don't learn their lesson. They don't get better. So what is going to be the aspect of us supporting people and making sure they don't come back to this situation again? That's the problem. We finding all these money and resources to throw at people that's still going to be in the same situation after your term, your 4 to 8 years is up. I just feel like it's time to start bailing people out.
Thank you.
Mr. Craig, for you, in a recent poll that we've talked about, we know we've talked about it tonight, Detroit primary voters saying crime is one of their top concerns. But they also in that same poll say they view you more unfavorably than any of the other 8 candidates in this race. What do you say to the voter?
You wonder why. He's the police. The black community or the urban community, Detroit, they don't respect the police.
Who think someone other than the former police chief is the one to improve crime in the city?
Well, I appreciate you asking me the question, and I'm going to tell you why. When I was the Detroit police chief and the deputy mayor, at one point, Mayor Duggan called me in the office and said, you got a 75% approval rating. Politicians would crave for that. Let me just say it simply. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. I'm a Detroiter first. Yes, I'm a conservative. I was a conservative Democrat, and now...
That's why I did this video. What is a conservative Democrat? He lost me there. I mean, he was a deputy mayor, Duggan. You think people, like what Duggan did in the city. You know what I'm saying? What is a conservative Democrat, player? Democrats represent liberal. Women can do it too. Matriarchy. Equal, selective, equal opportunity. It's not equal. They don't want to be equal. They want selective equality with men. That's where he lost me right here. And in that backyard suit.
I'm a Republican. Unfavorability comes down to... I'm a Detroiter first. Yes, I'm a conservative. I was a conservative Democrat, and now I'm a Republican.
No. You were conservative. Then he said Democrat. You were always a Republican, and it's cool. It's no problem with that. We're on it. You're a Republican, and a lot of people are a Republican, but they just don't know it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know the history of the Republican and the Democratic Party. You're a Republican. It's fine. It doesn't make you any less as a black man. They tell people, but the Democrats have poisoned the black community. You know what I'm saying? They poisoned them. Black men, when they first got started, black men, they supported the Republican Party because how the Democrats was moving. Look at the Democrats. They want you to delete your babies. You know what I'm saying? They don't want traditional homes. You know what I'm saying? They want to let your kids turn into transformers and shit like that. Who really with that, man? They don't support the nuclear family. Most of y'all women talking about you want a 100% provider husband. That ain't what Democrats say. Democrats are progressive. Women go out there and get it. Men go out there and get it. That's conservative views. Nuclear family is conservative views. There's nothing wrong with being a conservative. They both have their, racial or racism points in their parties.
Unfavorability comes down to one thing: partisan, partisan, partisan. What makes me different now? I was effective as your police chief and I was a Republican. Nothing changes. I got the job done, and so I understand the concern that some folks have. My commitment is I will lead like I did as the police chief, and as your mayor, I will do the same thing without partisan politics. It doesn't work. And by the way, every city I've worked and led in.
Time. Ms. Sheffield, for you, you've been criticized for missing committee meetings on City Council. As many as 90% of the Planning and Economic Development standing meetings over the last 3 years. How can voters trust that you'll be committed to the job as mayor when your recent record suggests otherwise?
So I think it's unfortunate that whoever published that article took that route. And this is what happens when you have no substance, you have no record, and no policy to run on. I'm an ex officio member of every committee as the council president. I preside over the formal session, which I chair on Tuesdays. And so no sitting council president goes to every single committee because you're ex officio of them all. So it's a false report. And again, this is what we go back to in politics when you don't have substance, when you don't have a record, and you're not sure what you're running on. I think Detroiters prefer to hear about my plan and vision, what I've done for Detroit. Now, let me be clear. We have not done everything right. And I've done as much as I can as a city council president to move this city forward. And we're going to build on that foundation that we've laid to ensure that everyone in this city benefits from the growth of Detroit.
The next question I'd like to invite onto the stage.
All right, then you have stereotypical black woman not showing up to work. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem. You missing meetings and all this. You don't even showing up to work. You're not punctual. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just what it is. So that's our issue right there, is you're going to even be committed to the job. And I believe that's Reverend Sheffield's daughter, by the way.
Lindsay, who's a volunteer with our sponsor tonight, AARP of Michigan. And when she's done, Ms. Jenkins, you'll have the first answer. Hi, Ann. Good evening.
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much. As he stated, my name is Ann Lindsay. I am a retired vice principal, a resident of Detroit, and a very proud member of AARP Michigan. Volunteer.
She might take all day.
In a recent AARP survey, Detroiters indicated that they are facing many challenges. Most of all, housing cost, also utilities, limited access to fresh food, and senior services. Nearly half of Detroiters are 50 years or older. In your view, what do you believe is the biggest challenge facing older people in our city? And what do you think you can do about it?
Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you for the question. I think the biggest challenge depends on which of our older citizens that we're talking to. As a social worker, I understand how systems work. My mentor, Marian Mahaffey, told me social workers put Band-Aids on wounds caused by poor public policy. So as your mayor, I understand how poor public policy impacts housing, utilities, food, and senior services. I would bring back our senior citizens department. It would not be a division within a department. There would be full-time senior advocates on the ground in the city every day fighting to ensure that our citizens, our aging citizens, have a better quality of life. I am visiting senior citizens across this city, and the conditions that they are living in, we should be ashamed of as a city. So I would address all of the issues of our residents, including our seniors, and making sure that there's housing
Time.
for them to age in place. Thank
Mr.
you.
Craig.
Well, first of all, I'm a senior, so I know some of you didn't know that, did you? But I certainly would work with negotiating with service providers. I would start a Department of Aging, but I want to talk specifically about something that's near and dear to me. I'm a fitness person, a healthy eater, and we recognize that with the food deserts, a lot of our seniors are not getting the healthy choices. I would partner with Kroger's. I would partner with Whole Foods connected to Amazon, because in partnering that, they can deliver fresh options to their doorstep. That's critically important. And then fitness. I took a look at the fitness. I started when I was the chief in DPD, something called DPD Fit. I know how important fitness is. For our seniors, fitness is critically important. Critically important. So I would partner, like I did when I was in DPD, with Planet Fitness and work and create...
Time.
Okay.
Ms. Sheffield.
Thank you. So
He just talked too slow. You know what I'm saying? But she got the answer.
having served for 12 years on the city council and representing the highest amount of senior buildings in Detroit, I know intimately the issues of our seniors. And I would say it does depend on who you speak with, but overall, I would say one pressing issue that I know most seniors in Detroit would probably agree on, and that is access to home repair grants. We have some of the oldest housing stock in the country. And when you have residents who have been in their home 30, 40, 50 years, and they're not going anywhere, but they need their roof fixed or their porch or the windows repaired, we need more access to home repair grants, which I'm very proud under my leadership. We saved the program. We have $40 million that we've invested in home repair grants for our seniors and disabled, and we will continue that, partnering with our hospitals and other institutions to ensure residents have access to home repair grants. Also, transportation is a big one. I do believe that we should have a dedicated, centralized department that addresses the need of our seniors who are aging in place to ensure that they have the resources and the support that they need. Under my leadership, we also started a mobile food program that I would like to see continued.
Mr. Kinlock.
One of the benefits that I have
She
as
made a great point. A lot of great points. But let's let him
being
go.
a senior pastor is that I get to stand at the altar and hear the most intimate concerns of some of our residents. I was in a senior complex today. I've been in at least 2 every day for the last several weeks, months. And one of the things that they are concerned about is not themselves. They're concerned about what type of world that they're going to leave behind for their children and their grandchildren. And they want to make sure that their children got opportunities. One of the reasons I got in this race, and one of the reasons so many other people who are ordinary people getting in races across this country, is because the people that are in power and in these positions are not delivering for us, and we got to do something different. One of the ladies asked me today, what makes you different? And I said to her, what makes me different is that I'll be a mayor that you can trust.
Next question. Unemployment was 7.5% in Detroit in April.
This would be the last one I cook. Y'all can go watch the rest.
Did I get to everybody on that last question, by the way? Did everybody answer that? Yeah. Unemployment was 7.5% in Detroit in April. What's your plan to address this and not just create jobs, but jobs that provide a livable wage? Mr. Craig, you're up first on this.
I appreciate the question because I was on the front seat when Mayor Duggan negotiated with Stellantis to bring a plant in the city after 30 years. As your mayor, I will continue to do that. I will continue, but just not the large corporations, but also smaller. But here's one thing that really shocked me. He negotiated 3,500 Detroiters to be hired by Stellantis. The challenge, they had to take an entry exam, and a good number of Detroiters failed. I know we haven't talked a lot about it during this session. Public schools are critically important. They are broken. Now, I recognize that the mayor does not control the schools, but the mayor can use his bully pulpit. The mayor can be a partner. I have worked as a police chief in the schools to turn the trajectory of young children that could not read. We need to do that because we can talk about economic development.
Time. Ms. Sheffield?
Yeah, so this is very, very important because at the end of the day, as Detroit rises, if the people here are not rising, it means nothing. There was a University of Michigan study that indicated that over half of Detroit workers are not making a livable wage. So it's not just about job creation, it's about the quality of the jobs. So my goal will be to continue to invest in workforce development as much as we can, ensuring that Detroiters have the skills and are equipped for the jobs of today and of tomorrow. That we're bringing these resources back into our community. We oftentimes don't have enough access points for people to get the skills and the training that they need. We also have to partner with our hospitals and institutions and building trades to ensure that skilled trades is exposed to our youth as well. I also think it's important that we as a city hone in on math, reading, literacy, and tutoring to ensure that our children and our youth have the proper training to ensure that they are prepared for these jobs. And then lastly, through responsible contracting, which is an ordinance that I passed, we are incentivizing contractors who actually do pay livable wages.
Mr. Kinlock?
One of the things we can do is start to take care of the people that are already doing the work. We already have baseline industries, whether you talk about airport, whether you talk about the medical industry, whether you talk about municipal workers. You already have baseline industries. Let's make sure. I was on the bus riding along with the transient advocates. And up until recently, they went 20 years. They went 20 years without competitive pay. And they losing their drivers to other municipal systems because they're not being paid competitively. When Chief Craig talked about Stellantis, I held a Stellantis career fair at my church, and 900 people with postgraduate degrees showed up, and they wanted to know where were y'all at. And I said, they've been here all the time. Y'all just didn't know where to look, and y'all just didn't come to the right stakeholders to talk to them.
Ms. Jenkins?
I will start by being a mayor who is a champion for education throughout our city and ensure that our schools are creating pathways to take our children from cradle to career and beyond.
And then I had to stop it here, right? I'm gonna let her finish.
I would also ensure that we are properly utilizing our workforce development dollars by partnering with companies, with healthcare, with schools and other industries of today and tomorrow. We should be asking, what are the jobs you're hiring for today? What will you be hiring for 12 months from now? And what will you be hiring for 5 years from now? And that's how we should be planning our workforce training to ensure that when we go after companies like a Stellantis, when they show up, our workforce is already prepared for high-paying jobs that will enable them to take care of themselves and their families.
All right, I'm gonna end it there. I can go watch the West on click on Detroit Channel 4 on YouTube, and they probably got on their website too. My issue is this. They talking about, oh, you need to make sure the students do this and get through school and do this. It's a lot of Band-Aids being put on here. It's a lot of Band-Aids being put on here. It's a lot of, affordable housing and, we got to make sure the kids. Well, how about the parents be parents? How about adults get to being adults? How about instead of a lot of these parents, the women doing it on their own, get with a man. We all create a 2-parent household where you can go volunteer in the school where you ain't got to work 68 hours on one person. We all can do it together, because the biggest problem in the education system is not the education. It's not the teacher. It's not the curriculum, even though those could be considered issues. It's the lack of parent involvement in the school. The only time the parents want to come up there is when they want to argue about getting the kid's phone back. That's the problem. How about adults be responsible adults or don't have children at all? The children is always the foundation of whatever you build. And if you market in a sport, if you market it, or you're trying to improve a city, the children are the foundation. But how do you get better foundation? You get better children through better parents. They need to stop allowing bailing these parents out with Section 8 vouchers, affordable housing. No, if y'all build together with the guy and the woman you had a baby with, this would not be an issue. Y'all would have 2 incomes in the house. Y'all would be able to volunteer in the class and get a teacher assistance and help your children with homework. You got babies raising babies. And a social worker, and this lady right here, she said that we got to keep putting the Band-Aid. You're putting a Band-Aid on the situation. Let's stop bailing people out. Let's allocate those resources that you put into Section 8 and welfare and affordable housing. Let's put that into the police force. Let's put that into, into those type of things, reforming police as far as their community service hours. Let's put those into, real programs that's actually going to help people that's looking to be helped. You know what I'm saying? It's enough of bailing people out. And that's the issue. They don't want to fix the problem. They want to continue to put Band-Aids over the problem. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel about it. We didn't have enough of, taking our tax dollars, our highest property tax dollars in Detroit, and giving it to people that's not trying to do better. Let's create programs with Section 8, welfare, food stamps, and all that stuff that help people save their money up and then get out the program and be productive citizens and able to get a better education and all that. Let's stop bailing out the bad people. All I heard was excuses for the most part, especially from her. Let's fix the problem. So that's all I had to say, man. You can finish watching the rest. It's about 16 minutes more. Then they got a break and all that stuff. So maybe about 10 minutes more, man. I appreciate y'all. Let me know what y'all think. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Next subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit the link tree to check out my main channel. You can catch me on X, Facebook, Instagram. You want to donate, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Best way to donate. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace.